Benjamin and northbound from Benjamin up to about 8,000 South Spanish Fork, where left lane is blocked with the final clearing of that accident. Looking to connect your kids with nature? Flower gardening is hands-on time together and memories. Olson's Greenhouse offers perfect plants for families to grow together. For porches, patios, beds, or containers, visit Olson's at ogg.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Some scattered wet weather may continue throughout the day with highs hitting 46, then will dry out. Wednesday has a high of 48 and Thursday 51. Right now it's about mostly cloudy and 38 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Heather Peterson from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com, we're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
It's something immigrant rights activists and lawyers have been worried about, and something even we on Inside Sources have voiced concerns about: deporting someone here legally under the guise that they are part of a foreign gang and no due process to ensure the deportation is legal. And this is what's interesting, is the case we're going to be talking about. It had a little bit of due process, like it's gone before a judge, but it seems like the administration has gotten a couple of things wrong on this, and we're going to go through this. But now this has actually happened. A man from Maryland who was here in the United States on a legal status is sitting in an El Salvadorian prison. The Trump administration now admits that this, quote, deportation, end quote, was the result of an administrative error. What's more, lawyers with the Department of Justice say there's little they can do to get this man back to the States.
Right. So right there, right? We talked about this earlier. And when this came out that we were going to send people to El Salvador, and one of our co-hosts, Aaron Ryder, and I sat right here and I was like, this is ridiculous. What happens if there's a problem? Now the person is in El Salvador. You can't actually do anything
this person
about it.
was El Salvadorian. So he came from El Salvador. He was in, first of all, listeners, I'm Adam Gardner. Welcome to Inside Sources, here with Leah Murray, the director of the
Already
Walker
feisty.
Institute
Sorry.
of Politics up at Weber State University. This case is really interesting. I want to get just the latest from ABC News national correspondent Steve Portnoy with the latest.
The Trump administration tells a federal judge in Maryland that ICE made an administrative error last month, detaining a man who had been protected from deportation by an immigration judge and who has an American child with his U.S. citizen wife. That man is now in El Salvador's notorious prison for terrorists, and while the administration admits it was an error to send him there, it also insists he was an MS-13 member and that there's nothing the courts can do about his deportation now.
And I want to get a response from the White House. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said, without providing specific evidence, that the man was a member of MS-13.
Foreign terrorists do not have legal protections in the United States of America anymore, and it is within the president's executive authority and power to deport these heinous individuals from American communities. It is a promise he campaigned on. It is a promise he is keeping.
Now, J.D. Vance follows that up. He said on X, "My comment is that according to the court document you apparently didn't read, he was a convicted MS-13 gang member with no legal right to be here. My further comment is that it's gross to get fired up about gang members getting deported while ignoring citizens they victimize." There's just a couple of problems with this tweet.
Yeah, preach. Go.
One, he was never convicted of being a member of the MS-13 gang, and he did have a legal right to be here. So let's look at some of the facts. Originally in 2019, he was arrested, this guy. His name is Abrego Garcia. So he was never a convicted gang member. He was never charged with any crime like this. He and 3 other men in 2019 were arrested for allegedly loitering outside a Home Depot where he says he was applying for a job. Law enforcement separated the men. They interrogated them about gang membership. They told Garcia he could leave if he gave them information, which he said he did not have. But one of the other men who was separated pointed his finger at Garcia and accused him of being affiliated with a part of the gang that operates in New York, where he has never lived. That, along with the fact that he was wearing a Chicago Bulls hat and hoodie, is the evidence that law enforcement said showed he was a member of a gang. When his lawyer went to find the police report for the Home Depot incident, Garcia wasn't even named on the arrest report. And about the subsequent gang evaluation, the investigator who authored the report was suspended. I don't know if it was about this, but he was suspended. So then he sued to get protective status because he was scared he was going to be deported. And he had married an American, a U.S. citizen, and they had a 5-year-old who is an American citizen. And he was granted protective status here in the United States so he was here illegally. And they said, if you do deport him, which the administration still was able to do, the order said, and this is by law, the order said he cannot be sent back to El Salvador because he would be tortured if he went back there. And where did the administration send him back to? El Salvador, and they put him in the notorious, mega prison. And so he's stuck there, and now they're saying, well, he's El Salvadorian, we sent him to El Salvador. Oopsie.
Right, and what I don't like is, let me just rephrase what I just said. I don't like any of this. The whole reason we have 4th through 8th rights, and by the way, I disagree with the administration. That's not just for American citizens. Like, we actually like due process as a,
well, let's say it is
due course,
but
right?
Let's say it is for American citizens only. How do you find out in an instance like this if they pick you or me off the street if we really are a member of an El Salvadorian gang or if we are American citizens? Like, that's the whole point of due process.
The process is due process, right?
We got to be protected. Americans have to be protected.
So before we just get taken out without due process and sent to an El Salvadorian prison, right, there should be questions raised. And a little bit it's like, what did she say? We have the executive authority and power to deport these heinous individuals. Why is he heinous? Because he likes the Chicago Bulls? Maybe. Because he's at Home Depot trying to get a job? Probably shouldn't be. Because he has a wife and a child who lives and are American citizens? Like, what about that is a problem?
And the thing is, if you're here in the country illegally, I get the argument, like, you shouldn't have been here. You cut through the front of the line. You shouldn't be here. You should be deported. I get that. And I'm okay with that. I truly am. I'm okay with that. And I think you should be deported. The difference here is there were specific court orders on this case already that said what they can and cannot do, and they ignored all of them. And then when they got caught with their hand in the cookie jar, they said, no, it was just a clerical error, but we still maintain that everything we said was true and factual and right. And he is an MS-13 member. And then when a judge asked him a question about this, a reporter asked a question about the judge, and Levitt said that the judge is working at the direction of Attorney General Pam Bondi.
The judge ordered that he should remain in this country. So are you saying that it is okay to ignore a judge's ruling if you don't like it?
Who does that judge work for?
He's an immigration
It was an
judge.
immigration judge who works for the Department of Justice at the direction of the Attorney General of the United States, whose name is Pam Bondi, who has committed to eradicating MS-13 from our nation's interior.
So that was a lot of words for yes, we can ignore a judge's ruling if we don't like it.
Because an immigration judge is under the purview of the Justice Department is what Ms. Levitt is saying. And because of that, Pam Bondi gets to direct all of their decisions. Am I reading that right? Am I understanding what she's saying right?
That's gotta be wrong, right? So again, oh my gosh.
So what she's saying is they shouldn't be impartial. They're working.
Correct.
They're working for the Attorney General at the direction of President
That's right.
Trump.
So
we get to decide what their
right.
rulings
If
are.
Donald Trump tells Pam Bondi to eradicate MS-13, and Pam Bondi has to prove that she's eradicating MS-13, then what is an easier thing to do than just say, here's a list of people who I think are MS-13, and just deport them, and tell a judge to not follow any orders coming out of the court system. So now we don't care about 4th through 8th amendments, and we don't care about, the 3rd article of the Constitution. There are checks and balances for a reason, because you know what, Adam? Like, mistakes actually happen, right? You might be looking at someone, you're like, he's from El Salvador. We think that's an issue. Seems like it makes sense. If you deport someone who's here illegally, you send them back to the country that they came from. I'm not as okay with it. Does that make sense? Like that you said earlier, but all of that kind of makes sense, except you got to check all the boxes. This was like without due diligence, hasty, and we will probably never see this man again.
And the problem, too, is when he was arrested by immigration officials, they told him your immigration status has changed because he had an order that he wasn't to be deported. And that was not true. So he assumed that it was, and maybe that's the clerical error. But the problem is I still went to the judge and they said, we were told by our evidence that he's MS-13 is that a confidential informant told us that he was. But if that's your standard for what someone is guilty of a crime, I think that bar is a little too low.
Are you kidding? Yeah, it's not even a bar.
There is no bar. It's just a guy told us that we can't tell you who that guy is, but a guy told us that you're a violent criminal.
Right. When the agency's job is to eradicate MS-13 and prove to people that they're doing it, they have an incentive to have a huge list of MS-13.
Yes.
It makes me very concerned that there is no second step on this where someone else checks and makes sure that the agency, right, isn't, how do I say, trying to build its numbers by kind of skirting corners.
Well, because we had a similar thing happen in Utah, up in Mill Creek, if you remember that incident where ICE was trying to detain an American citizen, and it wasn't until Mill Creek police showed up and said no way, like, stop this immediately. And it stopped, and I think it was great that the mayor kind of stepped up and said, you guys need to get your crap together. If we're trusting you to, like, weed out these violent criminals in the country, you got to be right.
Right. Like, we agree with you. Get rid of the violent criminals, but you have to actually know that they are violent criminals.
Next up on Inside Sources, it's the eve of President Trump's so-called Liberation Day. What we're learning about the new tariffs coming tomorrow, coming up next.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Utah State Fair Park. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Utah State Fair Park. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Utah State Fair Park. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Utah State Fair Park. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Utah State Fair Park. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Utah State Fair Park. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission. Free delivery. Utah State Fair Park. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Millions of Americans take medicine like Ozempic and Zepbound. Many of them are overpaying by thousands of dollars a year. These GLP-1 medications for diabetes, weight loss, and more may not always be covered by your insurance, but GoodRx can help. GoodRx helps you save every month on prescriptions at over 70,000 pharmacies nationwide. Best of all, it's free to use. Check GoodRx to save on GLP-1s. Just go to GoodRx.com/GLP. That's GoodRx.com/GLP. GoodRx is not insurance but can be used instead of insurance, including Medicare and other federal and state-funded programs.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
Is your financial advisor offering you up to a 30% upfront bonus? Are they promising you up to 10% growth per year guaranteed for your retirement income? If not, you need a new financial advisor. I'm Jeff Jr., founder of Trajan Wealth. If you plan to retire within the next 10 years, don't wait only to find out it's too late. I've seen hard-working folks like you retire only to be required to go back to work, all because their advisor told them guarantees like these were too good to be true. They're not. That's up to $30,000 up front or up to $10,000 per year on $100,000, all guaranteed for retirement income. Don't work when you're supposed to be retired. And if any financial advisor tells you it's too good to be true, they simply don't have the options we do. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600.
Annuity guarantees are based on the claim's paying ability of the issuing insurance company.
Get a head start on the warmer months ahead with a $29 AC tune-up from Yes Air Conditioning, Heating, Plumbing, and Electric. Yes offers licensed technicians and an exceptional service guarantee to give you peace of mind and help prevent expensive breakdowns. Ensure your system is working at peak efficiency and help save money on energy costs with a $29 AC tune-up from Yes Air Conditioning, Heating, Plumbing, and Electric. Call now or visit theyesmancan.com for details, terms, and conditions. Just say yes.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Today is April Fool's Day. And just to make sure you all didn't think it was a prank, President Trump is set to announce a massive new round of reciprocal tariffs tomorrow on April 2nd, which he is calling Liberation Day. Now, let's be clear, not a ton of detail on what the tariffs will be, not a ton of detail on who they will affect. There are actually several different drafts circulating right now. Nothing will be official until tomorrow. Let's listen to Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt this morning talking about what's set to happen.
Tomorrow, April 2nd, 2025, will go down as one of the most important days in modern American history. Our country has been one of the most open economies in the world, and we have the consumer base hands down, the best consumer base. But too many foreign countries have their markets closed to our exports. This is fundamentally unfair. The lack of reciprocity contributes to our large and persistent annual trade deficit that's gutted our industries and hollowed out key workforces. But those days of America, beginning tomorrow, being ripped off are over. American workers and businesses will be put first under President Trump, just as he promised on the campaign trail. The president's historic action tomorrow will improve American competitiveness in every area of industry, reduce our massive trade deficits, and ultimately protect our economic and national security. President Trump's economic vision is rooted in common sense. America will offer companies the lowest taxes, energy costs, regulations, if they make their products right here in the United States and hire American workers for the job. It's simple. If you make your product in America, you will pay no tariffs.
All right, so I just want to add, you're here with me, Leah Murray, alongside my good friend Adam Gardner, and we're chatting about tariffs. The last time we had a huge tariff bill was the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act in 1930. That put tariffs to protect American farmers, to protect American businesses, to make sure that our open economy, which, by the way, is another word for saying capitalism, that our open economy should be protected from all these other countries. They did a tariff of 40 to 60%, and I don't know, immediately we were in a Great Depression. That tariff was not helpful.
Well, it was
then.
after the Great Depression, but it
was after
definitely
the stock
prolonged
market
it.
collapsed.
Right.
When you do these kind of tariffs in an economy that is not already solid, right?
Yeah.
So the answer in 1930 was we had a stock market collapse. That's like, the day of trading that happened in 1929. One of the answers we should be doing is, I don't know, destroy our economic base and not have goods coming from anywhere else on the planet. And then we slide even further into a Great Depression. So you tell me, Adam Gardner,
oh, no.
friend and Republican who I adore, this cannot possibly be a good idea.
The problem is we're not, we don't know exactly what the tariffs are going to be on.
All right, pause right there. Doesn't that bother you a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay, so tomorrow's Liberation Day. And maybe we interviewed earlier today on Dave and Dejanovic, Robert Spenlove, and he said the three possible paths are a blanket tariff, a multiple tier of tariff, and each one has a different color, or custom rates for very specific countries. And he didn't know. I don't think Republicans who lead in Congress know. No one has any idea.
And he keeps calling them reciprocal tariffs. I also have a problem with that term because that implies that like we're taking the same goods and we're upset that you're placing tariffs on items X, Y, and Z. So we're going to do the same thing on items A, B, and C because we're upset at you. So we're calling them reciprocal tariffs, but that's not exactly what they are. We place the tariffs first on our allies and additional tariffs on China. Then they place tariffs on us because this is how trade wars work. Instead of using bombs, we use tariffs. And then we are now calling them reciprocal because we're upset that these countries are putting tariffs on us, which doesn't make a ton of sense. a lot of this is the brainchild of an economic advisor to President Trump named Peter Navarro. Peter Navarro has been all over the talk shows explaining that this is going to raise $6 trillion. That's outlandish and probably not true at all. This is how we're going to get out of debt. Yeah, you can use it to raise money, but he's also calling this a tax cut for America, and this is about jobs. Neither of those things are true. I've yet to see an economist say, hey, this is, you know what this is really good for? This is tax cuts. Americans are going to save a ton of money by tariffs. And we're also blaming the other country. We're saying that this administration is saying that they're not paid for by Americans. They're paid for by foreign countries. Let's pretend that's true. It is not. But when they do a reciprocal tariff on us, then that is a tax on us. And they're only doing it because we tax them first. So either way you skin this cat, it's a loss, I think, for America. And we're talking about big auto manufacturers, and he's listing all these European companies. And those European companies don't make trucks to send them to the United States. They make stuff here. Japan, they make their stuff here. But Ford and GM make a ton of their trucks and cars in Canada. And so we're going to see the price of a car go up, of a Ford and a GMC, good American companies, go up by sometimes 15, 20 grand.
Yeah. No, I was thinking this morning as I was driving in and I came by a Toyota dealership, right? And I thought, I wonder if all the Americans working in that car dealership feel like this is going to be super helpful. Your point is so well taken. When you have a global capitalist economy, which, by the way, I tend to be a capitalist, and I think it's a good idea to have open markets and just have goods move as freely as possible, because then I think everyone gets what they want for the best price that they can possibly get it. That's how capitalism works. When we are so interconnected, it is not the case. So what is the argument? I am going to make it so it's very expensive to build a Toyota truck in, Ohio. I'm going to make it very expensive for them to build a GM truck in Canada or to import a part from Canada. So what I'm going to have to do is flip on a dime every way that I work my supply chain, where I get those parts for those trucks, how I do all of that work. Right? To me, does anyone not remember what happened in COVID when all of the supply chain shut down and everything became ridiculously expensive? That one at least is a pandemic. This is an own goal.
Okay,
right, Adam?
So I see your point, and let me defend or take President Trump's side for a second.
Okay.
So if this is what we're being told by them, where we did go through COVID, we saw how other countries took advantage of the United States. We had been outsourcing our pharmaceuticals, outsourcing our PPE, outsourcing our critical minerals, our lumber, everything. Our oil, it's all coming from other countries, guys. We used to make stuff here. We used to be pretty self-sufficient. Everything extra that we had, we would then sell to other countries and we would make money. That's what I want to see again. So we're not going to be taken advantage of by China. We're not going to take Saudi Arabian oil. We're not going to take lumber from Canada. We're not going to be at their mercy anymore. Let's do that here. We got to change policies here. We're going to start drilling more here. We're going to start getting our coal from here. We're going to have cheap energy, cheap electricity. We're going to have cheap homes because we're using American lumber from Washington and Oregon. Make all these arguments and say, let's bring everything back. That's what I want to do. I'm okay with that. But you cannot say, I want to make everything in America and then I want to raise $600 billion a year from tariffs. If you accomplish one of those goals, the other goal dies.
Correct.
You cannot have both things, Leah.
That's right. It's not a both and.
If you bring everything back to the United States, we manufacture everything, we're self-sufficient, then you're not raising any money.
Right, because tariffs will not be
we don't
collected.
Need them.
We wouldn't need them.
We don't need them.
Yeah.
But if we're raising tons of money off of tariffs, then that means goods have to be made somewhere else, and we're still importing goods. You cannot have both things. And my issue is the administration has not told us which one is more important because I don't think they know how it works.
Well, and also I just kind of think Republican leaders in Congress don't know what he's doing, right? So he's making decisions without even talking to his allies.
And most of those Republicans are going home to their districts and they're saying, hey, we do not agree with tariffs. it's hurting economy X, Y, and Z, or this industry in my district. We don't like them. Well, you're not doing anything. Congress isn't pushing back. Everyone's just saying, hey, we're making these calls to the White House to make sure my industry's on the list so that we'll get a carve out.
Right, which, by the way, then scuttles the whole idea. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, when Inside Sources returns, a conservative member of Congress has left the House Freedom Caucus over GOP House leaders' refusal to allow proxy voting for new parents. We'll get into that next.
Good afternoon. It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Maria Chaleos. KSL's top local story. A woman is in the hospital after being hit by a car near California Avenue. The driver who hit her first fled the scene, but then ended up coming back. KSL News Radio's Virl Johansson has more.
Police received calls about the crash around 5:30 this morning. Officer Yair Javed with the Salt Lake City Police says they aren't sure what happened, but believe the darkness and slick roads may have played a factor. The driver initially left after the crash, but then called 911 and came back. Javed says when paramedics took the woman to the hospital, she was in critical condition.
Javed says they aren't sure what the woman was doing in the area since there aren't any crosswalks. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The U.S. Attorney General has directed prosecutors to seek the death penalty against Luigi Mangione, the man accused of gunning down the United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson outside a Manhattan hotel in December. The 26-year-old suspect faces separate federal and state murder charges in that killing. The remains of the fourth U.S. service member who was killed in Lithuania has been recovered. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt offered condolences.
The President, the Secretary of Defense, and the entire White House are praying for the victims' friends and family during this unimaginable time. This is another stark reminder of the selfless sacrifice of our brave military men and women who risk their lives around the world every day to keep us safe. God bless them.
The Army soldiers were in a military vehicle when it crashed into a swampy area and sunk. Your money at this moment, the Dow is down by 147 points. That's an improvement in the past half hour, sitting at 41,854. S&P 500, it's down by 7 points. The NASDAQ, though, it's up by 47 points. More snow showers in downtown Salt Lake City. How long will this last? We'll take a look at the forecast coming up next. KSL News Time, 1:32.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Hey, are you nervous about this stock market volatility and what will happen with tariffs, taxes, and Social Security? You're invited to a free educational event with Jeff Bush. Jeff's been featured in Investment News and CNBC. He's a nonpartisan authority that talks about this is what's going on in Washington right now. Here's how it could impact you. And these are the actionable strategies that could protect and grow your retirement savings. This event is hosted by Boss Retirement Solutions. See Jeff Bush live on Thursday, April 10th at 6:30 p.m. in downtown Salt Lake. Reserve your free ticket now by calling 801-850-6988. That's 801-850-6988. 801-850-6988.
Advisory services offered through Boss Retirement Advisors. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Boss Retirement Solutions and Advisors paid Jeff Bush for his appearance, but he is not affiliated with our firm.
Right now, water heaters are on sale at Any Hour Services. Schedule a free estimate today to see how much you'll save. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Traffic and weather together. It's brought to you by Mountain America's MyStyle checking account with built-in benefits. Here's Ricky Meese.
We are still seeing a little bit of busy traffic southbound I-15 going from Payson towards Santaquin, left over from the earlier Spanish Fork delays, but even that is looking so much better along I-15 in that area. Eastbound I-80, we have an accident where a tractor trailer went off the road at the on-ramp to eastbound I-80 at 2300 East. And of course, you can text us anytime with a traffic tip on the KSL Mountain Home Services text line at 57500. Overall, a delay-free drive on all of your Salt Lake County freeways. Advanced Window Products, $2,500 off 10 windows or more. AdvancedWindows.com. Affordable windows guaranteed. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
The brunt of the storm is headed out. It looks like we could still see a few lingering showers today and tomorrow. Right now in downtown Salt Lake City, it's 38 degrees. I'm Maria Chaleos from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
A battle is shaping up in the House of Representatives over a proposal allowing proxy voting for new parents who are also members of Congress. Republican Representative Anna Paulina Luna of Florida has been pushing for the ability to vote by proxy as she just had a baby. In fact, yesterday, Representative Luna resigned from the conservative House Freedom Caucus after other members of the caucus pushed Speaker Mike Johnson to kill the proxy voting measure. Now, Representative Luna is teaming up with Democrats and some Republicans to push back on House leadership. Does this surprise you, coming from a member of the House Freedom Caucus?
That she would resign over this issue? I don't know. So let's just talk about that real quick. To a certain extent, I don't think what they're asking for is so completely out of bounds. If you have like a doctor's note that says you probably shouldn't be on a plane, and we have, I don't know, technology that I could therefore vote, you know what I mean, by proxy, or even couldn't I say, hey, Adam, while you're in there, could you press the button on my desk that says yes or no on this bill? I don't understand why we wouldn't say, yes, of course you can do that.
So I think for new mothers, I actually think I'm kind of on her side. I don't think it's a huge deal. I think the legislature has been, like in Utah, has been amazing, encouraging like new mothers and parents to bring their babies in on the House floor. I've seen Representative Perucci on the Republican side, Representative Ashley Matthews on the Democrat side, bringing their kids. They're posting it on their Instagram stories. Like, my kids work at work with me today, and it used to be looked at as that's a distraction and unprofessional. And I think COVID kind of changed that because everyone was working from Zoom, and all their kids are popping up on their Zoom, and you're trying to control them. They're not at school, and
my son was in every lecture I gave that year because he would be like, "Hi."
And then you just kind of came to expect it. And if I had to watch my kid, I just hold it,
Right.
And I like that. It's different in a professional atmosphere. Up at the legislature, they weren't asking for proxy voting, but they were saying, hey, it makes it easier if I can be with my baby after I've just had one. And I think I don't know anyone up at the legislature that pushed back on that at all and said that wasn't a good idea. They encouraged it. I think that's really cool. We're a pro-family state. Like, that's a big deal. So I think for Utahns, we kind of go, yeah, that makes sense. Here's a little bit of history where I think it might have come from. During COVID, they didn't want to encourage large groups of people to get together, and so they had proxy voting. And so everything was done by proxy. One person from the Republican side would go in and cast the votes for everyone, and then one person from the Democrat side would go cast the votes for everybody.
To make sure no one got COVID and died.
Correct. But you said that they needed to have if you have a doctor's note or whatever. And so they started using doctor's notes for everything. So you would have a Republican doctor who would help out any Republican. Yeah, you can. So I remember a bunch of the delegation, including some from Utah, went to CPAC in Florida. But the speaker had called a vote. Nancy Pelosi had called a vote. And every one of them said, we're using proxy. We have a note from our doctor that says we can't go in there. And And so they would go to CPAC in Florida and nobody would show up to vote. And so it just became a little bit of a parody. This is not what I think they're talking about. This is a serious, if we're saying for one thing, for having a baby, you could have proxy voting. That kind of makes sense to me. The only thing I worry about is like what the next thing is. I was diagnosed with cancer. So we're starting to give everybody proxy and nobody's having to show up. And I'm not saying that if you have cancer, you shouldn't show up for work. We've seen a lot of times in the past, they've just resigned or what have you. So, but as far as just having a baby, yeah. I'm surprised the Freedom Caucus isn't. I'm not. The Freedom Caucus is like this. They don't back their own very, very easily.
Yeah. Here's Representative Luna speaking to CBS News last week about being a mother and a member of Congress.
Historically, it's been much more wealthy, older men who serve in Congress. This isn't designed for young families and for young women especially.
It's not like I'm faking, to go party in Cabo, right? Like I'm actually trying to A, recover, but then B, also care for a newborn.
I want to be able to represent my community and I want to be able to have a family, and it shouldn't be so hard to figure out how to do both.
So can we just have a conversation about congressional procedure? She worked with a number of 200 House Democrats, so let me be really clear, 12 Republicans to get a discharge petition signed, which would force floor action. So by the way, like the House Freedom Caucus could just say no when they're voting not by proxy, because God forbid we have proxy, but they could just vote no on this piece of legislation. Why do you think they are kind of making it so difficult?
I don't know. Usually, Republicans are pretty pro-life, but
pro-family.
Pro-family, but it does seem very interesting to me that this fight is like it's pitting arguments. In fact, there was an article in The Hill that talked a little bit about this, where they say the fight pits arguments about constitutionality and a slippery slope against a desire among pro-life Republicans to show support for new moms and families, all while having major ramifications for how much control leaders can maintain over the House floor going forward in their razor-thin majority. I think that's kind of frightening for the Republican majority, is if they're teaming up with Democrats to do discharge petitions, meaning they can overstep the leadership and force votes. That gets a little scary for the Republicans.
Yeah, and I want to just ask you, because wasn't the whole point of Speaker Johnson was my door is always open, and I am I'll use a phrase from Catholicism, like a lay Republican or a lay member kind of person, that my leadership won't be I'm in charge and things happen with backroom deals. Everything is I'll talk to anybody, right? Like a much more everyone who is in the conference or in the Democratic side he would listen to them. He'd probably prefer Republicans more, but like that he would listen to them. And here he's got a majority of people saying they want something that doesn't feel ideological, right? It's not even like a policy. It's a inside of the House rules. Isn't he kind of proving that no, maybe he is just a leader like all the leaders that they rail against, just someone who wants to tell everyone what to do?
And they're not necessarily using Speaker Johnson. I think the bad guy on this one, it's House Majority Leader Steve Scalise. He's kind of been the one that's jumped out in front of this. Discharge.
But didn't Johnson, so totally correct me. I understood Speaker Johnson's speakership and his leadership style, which I thought would have included Steve Scalise. Does that make sense? Like the whole vibe of the Republican leadership was not going to be one of closed doors and backroom deals and leaders making all the decisions. And if there was something that rose to the level of a discharge petition, which would mean bipartisan by the very nature, right? You'd have to have enough people to do that. Like, wouldn't that seem like something that the leadership that is open to what the membership wants, what the body wants, that this should be okay?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I also think like if you're going into the speaker's office and you're saying, hey, I'm going to work with a ton of Democrats on this unless I get my way. Representative Luna is not I'm trying to figure out the best way to word this. She's not like let's go talk this out. Let's be reasonable. Representative Luna is not that way. She is very bombastic. She's very rude. She's very always on the attack. She's the one saying we're going to find out. She's leading the special investigation over finding out who really killed JFK, and she's like, we're going to interview all the witnesses that never got interviewed that have been dead for 30 years. We're going to travel all over the country. I mean, that's what she's spending her time on. And so she immediately goes into attack mode. She's bought billboards in Utah during elections to get her message out and people she wants. So she's not necessarily a reasonable person. So I can see her going to the speaker and saying, I'm going to do this unless you don't bend to my will. And the speaker's got to go, well, then no, go ahead, team up.
So maybe this is more like colleagues at work who are difficult.
Yeah, sure. I have an open door and you can come in and talk to me about it, but I'm not going to be a pushover on this. And so that's what we're
fair.
kind of. But Johnson's not being the bad guy on this. He's not the one saying my door is closed now. This is Steve Scalise coming out and saying like, hey, if you want to team up with Democrats and do this, we're going to have some problems. So he said, we're in the majority on the Republican side, and I want to be able to move the Republican agenda. And, I'd rather not move the Pelosi policies over the majority. And so that's the history where we get into COVID of the proxy voting and things like that. So I think we're going to see a discharge position. It could work. Ultimately, it's not going to affect anything. Whether there's some proxy voting for 12 weeks after you have a baby doesn't affect my life at all. Doesn't affect your life at all. So I'm having a hard time caring, but I want to see where this goes. It makes for a fun family fight.
Yeah.
Next on Inside Sources, New Jersey Democratic Senator Cory Booker is still speaking on the Senate floor against President Trump more than nearly 21 hours later. What has he been saying during his filibuster speech? More on that after the break.
What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and there's a good chance you've heard me talking about our free furnace sale. The one where you buy a new air conditioner and we give you a new furnace for just the cost to install it, about $400. Well, we still have a few more spots on our schedule we need to fill, so I'm extending the sale, but I'm not quite sure for how much longer. Definitely no later than April 30th, and once I think our schedule's full enough, I gotta pull these ads, so don't wait too long to call and schedule your free estimate. The main reason we do this sale is to give you an incentive to help us keep our guys busy when the weather's mild. And thanks to your help, we're able to keep our guys and keep growing. So if your furnace and air conditioner are ready to be replaced, you owe it to yourself to at least schedule a free estimate and get all the details about our free furnace sale. Just to recap, when you have Any Hour Services install a new air conditioner, we'll give you a new furnace for just the cost to install it. About $400. The furnace is free, you just pay the labor. If you think you might be interested, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
KSL Broadcast Group contests are open to participants 18 years of age and older that are residents of Utah, unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest may not enter. Persons who have won in the last 30, 60, or 90 days from a station contest or event may not be eligible. Full general contest rules are available at KSLNewsRadio.com/contests.
This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
How does a soccer club born in an unlikely place,
Utah? You sure you want to do that in Utah?
built with players no one else wanted,
We knew no one believed in us.
reach the league's highest heights?
We finally did it. It was like just this feeling of getting to the top of the mountain.
How does that same team find a way to shatter expectations in the midst of a fight for its own survival?
Our club is burning to the ground as we speak.
I'm Amy Donaldson, and in a new podcast, Making of a Moment, the RSL story, we take a closer look at one of those iconic sports moments
Soccer is a crazy game, and we saw it firsthand tonight.
and unravel how knowing the truth of these moments can transform what they mean.
I just kind of got chills right now thinking about it.
Making of a Moment, the RSL story, is available now. Follow us at makingamomentpod.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Teens can get up to $200 with a Teen Learn and Earn account. Plus, continue earning rewards as they master the essentials of finance. More at cypresscu.com/teen.
Dave and Dujanovic.
If you're driving to work or you're driving the kids to a soccer game, we're your in-car companions.
People will come up to me and say, "Oh, I talk to you every day. You don't realize it because I'm talking at the radio, but I talk to you every day."
Listen for Dave and Dujanovic 9 to noon on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Democrats are voicing their concerns with President Trump's agenda. Literally. Democratic Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey is still speaking on the Senate floor. So Adam Gardner alongside Leah Murray here, I feel he started yesterday at 5 p.m. our time. He is still talking. So do the math for me, Adam. That's 21 hours?
Yeah, about 21 hours.
And I want to just be clear, he can let people ask him questions. So he can say, I will yield the floor to Senator Warnock, who can ask a question. He has been joined by a number of Democrats that you may have heard of. There's some famous ones in there like Elizabeth Warren, and maybe some ones you've never heard of like Andy Kim of New Jersey. But anyway, so he's got Democratic senators hanging out with him, but he cannot leave the room. He cannot sit down. So this man has not gone to the bathroom or had food or anything for 21 hours.
I last 3 or I get mad. And it's good because he can get mad. He can kind of do anything he wants. He controls the floor. The Senate or the House is very it's very orderly. I mean, it looks very disorderly, but there's someone always speaking. And usually on a debate, they'll say, we have 2 hours to debate this bill. Your side gets an hour. Our side gets an hour. You guys have to divide it up, and it's very regimented. And if you go over your minute and a half speaking time, you cut into your side's time. So everyone is usually pretty punctual, or your side will not let you speak again.
All right, so I want to just let our listeners know that at the exact same time Adam is saying to me, this is not technically a filibuster. My husband, who is a high school government teacher, was texting me, make sure you tell everyone it's not technically a filibuster. So I just had to say, you all were in a Venn diagram together. It doesn't happen often, Adam, but there you were.
We're all on the same page.
Yeah, you're on the
That's
same
kinda
page. What do we mean by it's not technically a filibuster?
Well, so cloture has already happened. In fact, Burgess Everett, a reporter, he said, is Booker's speech a filibuster? Kind of. Whitaker, who they're voting on his confirmation, could have been confirmed as early as 2 hours after his cloture vote last night. So in a sense, he's just delaying that.
Okay.
So you're not stopping a piece of legislation. Cloture already happened, and then you can have speeches, and usually 2 hours after that vote, you're eligible to be confirmed. He's delaying that confirmation. So instead of waiting for that 2 hours, he just started talking.
Do you think he's trying to get the record? So even if it's not technical, do you think we would still say if he gets past 24 hours, which I think is the Strom Thurmond record when he filibustered?
24 hours, 18 minutes.
Right,
That's Strom Thurmond's
right,
record.
The Civil Rights Act back in, I think, 1948, but correct me on that year if I've got that wrong. Oh, excuse me, 1957. Yeah, sorry. He talked for 24 hours and 18 minutes. Do you think that Cory Booker's trying to get to that point for the record, or do you think there's something, how do I say, more there? Is this actually got a point?
So, if there's a point, yes. I think here's 2 points. Personally, yes, I do think he wants to get the record. And I'm all for breaking records. So, yeah, it's kind of cool that we get to see something historical.
I also kind of feel like having a black senator break the record of the white senator who was filibustering against Civil Rights Act, which made it possible for the black senator to become a senator, might be kind of, I don't know what, poetic justice.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So yes, I think he is. I think it'd be cool if he broke it. Whatever. I don't necessarily care about his personal records, but it's cool to see history happen. I also think I have been, as I scroll mindlessly through X, and I see Democrats calling out Republicans. Every comment from someone on the Democratic side is saying, then do something about it. Then fight. Then let us see you stand up. And this is kind of a way for Democrats to show, like, you know what, we're ticked. We're not going to take it anymore. And so we're going to speak. We're going to delay. We're going to be a roadblock. We're going to fight. And that's what people wanted to see out of Donald Trump when he got elected. When I would say, well, he's not right about this, and this isn't conservative, my family members would always say, yeah, but he's fighting for us. He's on our team. And it's hard to argue with that because, he is fighting. And Senator Cory Booker is kind of doing the same thing. Senator Cory Booker is also very performative. When he gets into committee hearings, when he's trying to stall on a judge's nomination or someone from being nominated to the Supreme Court, you've seen him sitting in the committee hearings and he's yelling, "I am Spartacus." I mean, he's literally done that in his speeches in a committee. "I am Spartacus," and he's yelling and screaming. So he's very performative. So he's good at this. He likes this. He's from New Jersey. The man can talk. And so, yeah, I do think that he's trying to break the record. I think he probably will, especially since in 1957, I think that Strom Thurmond had to do it largely on his own, whereas he's getting a little bit of help from
he's got friends, right? I love this. Booker said at the 15-hour mark, "I've got fuel in the tank, man." So what you just said,
he's ready.
Right? Like he understands how to do this. He says he rises. So I'm just going to read this out of an ABC story. "I rise tonight because I believe sincerely that our country is in crisis, right? In just 71 days, the President of the United States has inflicted so much harm on American safety, financial stability, the core foundations of our democracy, and even our aspirations as a people." So how do I say? What you're seeing in your mindless doom scrolling on X, which is Democrats saying, stand up and fight and do something. Does this actually answer that call?
Yeah, I think it does.
Even though
there's nothing you can do.
Okay, go.
In the Democrats' position, there is not a lot they can do to stop anything. It's what is happening right now is all through the courts. The Republican president is doing things unilaterally without Congress. He's doing everything by executive order. So when you sign hundreds of executive orders, the only way to push back and say, no, this is overstepping, this is right, this is bad, this is good, is through the courts. Now, Congress can codify some of those things, but they're not doing that. They're not codifying any of these changes. They've been working on the budget for 4 months, and that's kind of it. So there's not really an avenue for an individual House member. And I kind of feel bad. When Biden was in control and Nancy Pelosi and Obama, Obamacare, there was nothing Republicans could do. They could not stop it. And so you would get the way that they wanted you to fight was, we want to see you on Fox News yelling.
All right, so let's listen to Booker. I feel like if we're going to have this, we won't have it live, but let's listen to a clip from earlier. Here, Booker is saying that the Trump administration's foreign policy is damaging our relationship with our allies.
When our country stands up, we don't bully our neighbors like Canada. We don't threaten our allies like Iceland, like Greenland. We don't threaten smaller, weaker nations like Panama.
So that's him going after, like, what did you say? So you can't stop anything, right?
But you can scream.
But you can
get
scream.
mad.
And those clips, so he's not going to want to get on Fox News, right? Like, but maybe now clips of this get onto X, clips of this get onto MSNBC.
You have 27,000 live streams on C-SPAN right now watching. I don't think C-SPAN ever gets 27,000 people watching a live stream of Senate proceedings. And so, every one of those things is going to happen on.
I'm usually one of those people watching live stream on C-SPAN. I love C-SPAN.
There was usually 6, and now there's 27,000.
Now there's 27. All right, so, I mean, that's not a ton of people. That's not like a viewership of the Super Bowl, but it's a lot of people knowing C-SPAN exists and then watching what's happening.
And it's kind of germane. Matthew Whitaker of Iowa, that's the issue here. Cloture was just broken. He's going to be confirmed as the permanent representative of the Council of NATO. And so that's why these conversations are happening. That's why it's kind of apropos right now.
So when you just said germane, right? It's because, by the way, Cory Booker could get up and read from, comic books.
He can read a recipe book.
He could read a recipe book because a filibuster, and how do I say, the United States Senate does not require germaneness.
No,
right?
That's correct.
And germane basically means you have to be talking about whatever issue is on the floor.
Yeah, which this is germane, but he doesn't have to be.
He doesn't have to
He can
be.
he can talk about whatever he wants.
Yeah, do you think he's running for president?
Yeah, I think it makes sense that he would. He's been wanting to, angling for a while now, and I think.
And all these clips maybe set him up for a national reputation for the 2028.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, coming up in the second hour of Inside Sources, Adam, let's dig into a resolution proposal from the Utah State Board of Education that compared diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts to the goals of Soviet Union communism. Stay with us.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon. It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Maria Chaleos, KSL's top local story. A woman is in the hospital after being hit by a car near California Avenue. The driver who hit her first fled the scene, but then ended up coming back. KSL News Radio's Verl Johansson has the story.
Police received calls about the crash around 5:30 this morning. Officer Yair Javed with the Salt Lake City Police says they aren't sure what happened, but believe the darkness and slick roads may have played a factor. The driver initially left after the crash, but then called 911 and came back. Javed says when paramedics took the woman to the hospital, she was in critical condition.
Javed says they aren't sure what the woman was doing in the area since there aren't any crosswalks. Our top national story from ABC News. The European Union is threatening a strong response to President Trump's tariffs.
EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen saying the bloc has a strong plan to retaliate against President Trump's tariffs, though it would prefer to negotiate a solution, adding Europeans are utterly disheartened by what's happening. Trump is expected to announce additional tariffs later this week. He has already imposed 25% on imports of steel and aluminum from all countries. Inez de la Cuetara, ABC News. Paris.
Your money at this moment, the Dow ending the day down by 146 points, sitting at 41,854. S&P down by 7, the NASDAQ up by 47 points. Seeing a bit of sunshine. We'll get an update of the forecast coming up next. KSL News Time, 2:02.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa this weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Utah State Fair Park. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa this weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Utah State Fair Park. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend, Utah State Fair Park. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates this weekend only, Utah State Fair Park. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Utah State Fair Park. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Utah State Fair Park. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission. Free delivery. Utah State Fair Park. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Seems everything costs more these days. Gas, groceries, and when's the last time you checked your wireless bill? When it comes to Big Wireless, if you're staying, you may be overpaying. Switch to Consumer Cellular to get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill. Plans start at just $20 a month, and now for a limited time, new customers can get their second month free. Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit a store near you, or ConsumerCellular.com and start saving today. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
Confidence is knowing you're ready to handle whatever comes your way. That's what it feels like to take on your workday with Cintas. They make sure your AEDs are up to date, your fire extinguishers are tested and inspected, your floor mats are cleaned and delivered, and your workwear looks good, feels good, and is freshly laundered with the Cintas Apparel Plus program. So are you ready to take on today? Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Traffic and weather together. It's brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account with built-in benefits. What's happening, Ricky?
We do have a new accident eastbound I-80 approaching Redwood Road. All vehicles are over to the right shoulder. Some leftover busy and a little slow traffic southbound I-15 between 2100 and 3300 south, where the freeway traffic was stopped temporarily in order to move a crashed vehicle out of the way, but that traffic is starting to move again. Don't miss Mr. Max Buy One, Get One for 100 suit sale. Suits starting at $299 in a variety of colors and patterns. Available at all 9 Mr. Mac locations with free alterations. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Brunt of the snowstorm is over, decreasing showers across the Wasatch Front into this evening. About a 30% chance for the next couple of days. And it looks like temperatures climb back up into the 60s by the weekend. Right now, mostly cloudy, 37 degrees. I'm Maria Chaleos from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
A new resolution proposal in front of the Utah State Board of Education would eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in Utah's schools. You might be thinking, wait, didn't the state already ban those things? And you'd be right, because it happened during the 2024 legislative session with House Bill 261 titled Equal Opportunity Initiatives. But one state school board member says that that's not actually happening. Utah schools have found other ways to keep DEI going, and she wants it to stop. So we're going to start the segment right into it. The Board of Education member behind the proposal is Christina Bogus. She spoke with Utah's Morning News' Amanda Dixon about the resolution and some examples of why she believes it's needed.
Christina, tell me, what is your goal with this resolution?
Well, I think we've got a manifold set of goals. One is we've got a system or a culture of non-compliance that's been confirmed by multiple audits through OLAG and our own audit department. And we have a legislative bill that is passed. It is enforced, and we have a system at large that's not complying with the law. So we have a manifold goal. One, we bring attention to an issue that has been in the public eye and overwhelmingly talked about for over 5 years. Public policy has resulted from that, and we have a system that just is overtly flagrant, and they disregard the law because the tenets of radical DEI are still outward. They're very overt and ever present in our state's educational infrastructure.
Can you give me an example of what kind of flagrant disobeying of the law you're seeing?
Yeah. So, for example, in the legislative code, it says you cannot have a DEI office. That is officially no longer a thing. And we have school districts in our state that have published for DEI officers, as well as they've kept their office of DEI. Like the law says, get rid of it. It gave a timeline. That time has since passed, and there's flagrant disregard for that. There's also a series of what are called prohibited discriminatory practices that are cited in that code that came from House Bill 261. And we have many of our LEAs in our agency itself that is still in violation of that.
I'd like to bring on, Adam, if that's okay with you, someone who is opposed. So earlier today, we heard from the person who is pushing this resolution. Now let's have a conversation with Sarah Reel, Utah State Board of Education member who has offered some criticism of the resolution. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, of course, Sarah, can you give us your take on the resolution? Like, what is happening?
We will be voting on the resolution in our board meeting on Thursday, this coming Thursday. And I'm hearing a lot of feedback from teachers and parents and local school board members in opposition of this resolution. And I think it's because for the last year, our schools have put time and resources into implementing and following the requirements of HB 261 that board member Bogus spoke on. And quite honestly, because of the message it sends. It's sending a message that is inciting fear, and that does not help our teachers or students in their learning environments.
What is sparking the fear? What are you hearing from teachers? What are you hearing from parents? What's the fear if this resolution goes into place?
The fear is the way that the resolution is written is offensive. It's full of false narratives. It's sending the wrong message to our educators. It's sending the wrong message to a lot of our students. I have heard from special education parents who are concerned that it's taking it too far. We have done a great job at complying to HB 261. And even with the opposition that came out after HB 261 was passed. But we, went to work and made sure that we are compliant in that. It's going to take time to be 100% perfect. Yes, I understand that. But creating this resolution is pushing it to in a different level that I've never seen before in any of the anti-DEI legislation or policy that I've seen nationwide.
I'm wondering, we asked board member Boggess, right? Amanda Dixon asked her for a specific example of 261 not being implemented. And I didn't think she had a specific example. Sarah, do you, what I hear you saying is that, look, all the schools are doing their best, right, to implement 261. They're doing the work that they need to be doing. What could be the cause of board member Boggess thinking, right? Why does she think it's still out there and lingering in our schools?
Yeah, it's just firing the fuel of culture wars to me. And that's why it's been really embarrassing for me to see this come about, because we have been so compliant in that. And of course, we have, a huge state education system. No one's going to be perfect. And on top of all of the requirements of HB 261, we have dozens and dozens of education bills that are passed every year with new requirements, new policies needing to be written. It takes time to implement those and a lot of resources. And what we know about education is that we are without a lot of resources. So none of the things, I have not had any come to me as this is a blatant offense of HB 261. And so that's why this is completely unnecessary and is a waste of time. We could be working in our board meetings to look at new ways to improve math education, teacher development, technology in the classrooms, but instead we're going to have to discuss and debate and vote on a completely unnecessary resolution.
So I want to just clarify that. You mentioned the legislature passed this bill. It was signed by the governor. It's not been in effect for a year yet. So you haven't quite had a year to get all your ducks in a row. Have you?
You're right. It didn't go into play until July of last year, right?
So it hasn't been like a terribly long time. I don't know how long this stuff takes. You guys are the experts. But has the legislature expressed any concern that this isn't happening fast enough? Is this type of resolution being pushed just because that's that's the prerogative of a board member, or is there real pushback from the legislature, the governor's office, or anyone telling you, hey, you guys aren't working fast enough, you got to keep going?
I have not heard or seen any pressure been placed on us about 261. And I actually think there's been a little bit of grace in making sure that we can get it implemented. Other than rogue Facebook posts of some sort of anti-DEI police going into a school and seeing a Martin Luther King poster or something and claiming it as DEI, I have not heard overwhelmingly that our schools aren't compliant.
Can I interrupt you for a second? Has that really happened? Someone saw...
every day you can get on Facebook and see something that people are considering DEI and accusing teachers of influencing students in some way that are always false and are really harmful for our teachers. It gives them a lot of fear every day when they go to teach that they might be doing something that someone might post on the internet about. And it's really sad and disheartening to me.
So I want to give one example that got kind of heated a little while ago where there was a position in the governor's office that was originally titled Senior Advisor for Equity and Opportunity, and they rebranded it to Access and Opportunity. So they're just taking away the position's still the same, everything's still the same. Are you seeing any of that in the school system, where it's just kind of a rebranding of the same thing, or is there like a legitimate effort to change?
I have seen some concerns from different schools, our LEAs, about things like, can Girls Who Code still exist? Are we allowed to have a women's choir and a men's choir? I've heard of those things. I haven't heard. I know that a lot of schools have adjusted either not filled positions or changed folks' positions within the district level of what they're covering and how they're supporting students to being compliant under the law. But I haven't heard of a lot of those happening on the K through 12 level whatsoever.
We're speaking now with Utah State School Board of Education member Sarah Reel. I really appreciate you coming on. I learned a lot. This is not my area of expertise. As I'm co-hosting right now with someone in education, she knows that education is not my expertise. So really appreciate you coming on, kind of clearing the air on a lot of this. We're anxious to see how this is going to turn out at your board meeting on Thursday. Coming up on Inside Sources, we're going to stick with this topic and discuss some of the more controversial language in the resolution comparing DEI to Marxism and communism. Stay with us.
It's Jeff Jr. from Trajan Wealth, and I've got something important to talk to you about, your 401k. If you have changed jobs, there are two very important considerations. You don't want to leave your 401k behind, and you don't want to roll it over into your new company plan without consulting Trajan Wealth first. 401ks will often have limited investments or age-based options. Since companies have to make choices to suit all employees, they may not be suited to you, which could cost you fees and money. When you roll over your 401k into an IRA, you not only keep your money growing tax deferred, but you also gain access to a world of investment options specifically designed for you. Trajan Wealth and our fiduciary advisors have helped thousands, and we can do the same for you. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. 801-899-7600.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
I've done multiple different eating plans before. They helped me get weight off, but boom, 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 it all just came back with a vengeance.
Stop wasting time and money on plans that don't work. Trust the #1 weight loss company in America, Soda Weight Loss.
My name's Jim. In 5 months, I dropped over 65 pounds.
Hi, I'm Jared. I'm at 21 weeks. I've lost 110 pounds.
I tried to do it on my own, and I think it's discouraging when you try over and over again and you just get nowhere. You have the experts here. If you're on the fence, I mean, if it hasn't worked out on your own, these are the people to do it.
When you start losing the weight, even that first 5 pounds, this enormous amount of confidence starts to build in you. You start to realize, like, oh, this is possible for me.
No shots, no medications, just real results that last for a lifetime.
How about this? When you join Soda Weight Loss with a partner, you only pay for one. Get started now. Go to sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear, call me Papa Bear because I'm grilling up dinner. Do you get it?
Yes, good job.
So, what should I do with all these coals?
Don't just toss them out. Put them in a metal container because those embers can start a wildfire.
I understand. The stakes are high.
Ha, 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 ha.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, do it now. Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Dave and Debbie.
It's impossible to digest and consume all of the news that's now coming at us through either social media or through web pages or through the radio. Pick what is most impactful in your life and focus on that. And that's what Dave and I do every single morning. We pick those issues that are most important to our listeners and we boil it down so it's digestible. It's simple to understand.
I think we're trying to find the essence of the story. You know, you can't be an expert on all things, but that doesn't mean you can't be curious and really find out more and educate yourself and learn the complexities of an issue. But I think all of us start at ground zero on everything. Ask questions, show that curiosity.
And then if you need more research, you can always go to KSLNewsRadio.com and learn more.
Listen for Dave and Dejanovic 9 to noon on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
According to a new resolution before the state's Board of Education, quote, DEI at its core is 1920 Soviet Union policy for using ethnic minorities to advance the installation of communism, end quote. That comparison between DEI, and let's just remind everybody, that's diversity, equity, and inclusion. That comparison between DEI and communism has sparked a discussion today over whether that is really even appropriate or maybe even accurate. Let's listen to a conversation from earlier this morning between KSL News Radio Amanda Dixon and board member Christina Bogus.
The resolution is to make sure that the school districts and individual schools come into compliance with that law. But then why go on to compare DEI programs to Soviet communism?
So I actually didn't compare them to Soviet communism. I compared them to the goals. And so if you read that language, that's there. Many people have said that. So it's not just you that has said that, but it says that their programs, processes, or implemented ideas that attempt to achieve the Soviet communist goal. And that's an important distinction because we want to be very clear about what we're talking about. The equality of humanity's values should never be understated, ever. All men are created equal, and all men have a seat at the table. We're talking about programs, processes, and ideas that attempt to achieve the Soviet communist goal, which is ultimately about uprising, revolt, revolution, and war.
But do you think? I'm sorry, Christina. Do you think using? I mean, it's a heavy statement, even just using the two words Soviet communist about the people who support these programs. That I just don't know whether that will go toward your ultimate goal, which is always about caring for the children.
Mm-hmm. So I think that there's some conflation there because when we define things, it's important to know what we're talking about. Whenever you come to the table to have a negotiation, you negotiate a contract, you negotiate whatever, we have to define our terms. And the thing about radical DEI activists is they're very good about co-opting language and attempting to redefine it. And it's this culture of crazy that exists so that you can't actually have a conversation. And it is important that we talk about what we're really talking about, and we are talking about those practices, programs, and ideas that have the same goal. And I think anybody that is trained in education can ask themselves that question. Have I participated in this? Have I been trained in this? Is the goal X, or is the goal to make sure that these young people feel loved? Because there is a difference.
You're not concerned that this will smack of McCarthyism because it's like the communist scare sort of thing. That word is just so charged.
I think people can be hyperbolic and bombastic and make those accusations, but I think it would fall flat on its face just because we have a definition here, and to put words in someone's mouth isn't fair in sporting. We're very clear in this that we're talking about the goal. We define the goal, and we go on to in very sterile words. I mean, it's very sterile. It just is a definition, and we say basically at its core, its roots woven through time, this is the goal. This is the origination point. And what we're seeing in our schools today are these programs that have this goal, and these radical DEI practices are still existing. So if people want to be hyperbolic and bombastic, they can choose to do that, but I'm not going to take on their words because those are not my words.
I so appreciate your time. This is State School Board member Christina Bongas, who is behind the resolution that will be voted on by the State Board of Education this week.
So the resolution reads, whereas diversity, equity, and inclusion are explicitly programs, processes, or implemented ideas attempting to achieve the Soviet communist goal of actual equality or equity, the Soviet programs were called, and then there's a Russian word that I can't pronounce, which maps to inclusion, and another Russian word that I can't pronounce, which means diversity, in the sense meant by Lenin, who described it as diversity in form to arrive at unity in content. DEI, at its core, is 1920s Soviet Union policy for using ethnic minorities to advance the installation of communism. So a little bit, I just kind of want to say that is her language. Right? This is her resolution. And
so
the
what
first
you're saying
line
is
of the resolution is that.
She was saying I wasn't comparing it to Soviet Marxism. I was saying that it's to achieve the goals of, but that's not exactly accurate, I don't think.
Correct.
Based on reading the language.
When
the
I
plain
read
language.
it feels, not even feels, I think the plain language has us coming at what DEI is a Soviet communist goal of actual equality.
Yeah, I think you're right. She also goes on to say that identity politics is a term coined by the radical Marxist group, the Combahee River Collective, in the late 1970s. Identity politics includes programs, processes, or implemented ideas referring to a critical or oppressor versus oppressed framework for dealing with inequities between identity groups. And it's kind of funny because if you know anything about the Combahee River Collective, which I've never researched, just like my teeny bit of knowledge, you actually have.
Yeah, well, I haven't researched it, but I've read it, right?
Yeah.
And it basically is Black feminist communists having a conversation about what does
lesbian.
it mean.
You have to be
Black.
Lesbian. This
Black,
is the ultimate
lesbian.
identity politics.
Right. Go ahead.
You have to be a socialist, Black, lesbian, communist.
Right. And the question they raised was, is there power in our group? Right? It's like, so the conversation about if I could be in a room with a whole bunch of people who are just like me.
Can we move the needle?
Yeah.
Can we move the conversation?
Do we get growth from that? Like, what does that mean? So again, what I said to you off the air, Adam, is you've met political theorists. It's basically
it's a bunch of college professors.
Yeah, it's people having
it's
a
like
conversation.
Elizabeth Warren's in a room. And the fact that she's
not
from
that she's a
Massachusetts,
lesbian or not that right.
No,
but
that's not where I was going.
She
with
would not
that,
be
but it's
welcome
like
either.
She's very identity politics and that's kind of her strength. And so I feel like she was a professor. It's like getting that kind of mode. And this was in Boston in the 1970s,
right.
Late 1970s. And just a group of them to see how far they could get. It lasted a couple years.
Yeah. So the question, I guess, is, so if we think about our last segment, is learning about Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement something that causes children to become Soviet communists?
And I don't, but that's the thing. I
go.
worry that everything gets taken to, we're only speaking in hyperbole. And in our last interview, which I thought was great, it was mentioned too that, on Facebook, it was saying that what you just said, that Martin Luther King we don't want to see a picture of him in the halls. And look, I have read a lot of like X posts and Facebook posts where I've seen people say that, but I don't know if anyone's saying that in this context in Utah. Like, I haven't seen that. Is it the case? Are there people getting complaints? Yes, probably, but we haven't seen any evidence of that. And I worry that if both sides are pushing this so crazy that, yes, this is DEI. I was all for this bill, to be honest with you. Get rid of these offices. Like, I didn't care about that. But the curriculum, I don't want to say because we don't have DEI. It's what the Trump administration did when they removed pictures of Jackie Robinson from serving in the military. Because
right, what you're saying
just
is,
you are Black.
Right. The answer is actually we shouldn't be doing that.
That's also
right.
racist.
Okay. So the conversation basically is maybe we do not want policies that seem to drive in a direction of how do I say, categorizing humans based on their identity. And so we want to like push away from that. But that doesn't mean push away from learning our history.
We all want common sense. And I think both sides, the far right and the far left, are only focused on identity for all the wrong reasons. Everyone wants us to kind of get to the middle, to the common sense realm of just like, yeah, we believe everyone has merit and everyone's created equal, and so we all should have equal opportunity. Not I get a leg up because of this, or we're going to have a special office that only caters to these people and we're going to leave out these kids. We just want to see everybody kind of included, and I realize it's wrong to also say the word inclusive.
Yeah, right.
Because now I'm like, oh, maybe I'm stepping in it.
Right? I mean, like, what did she say? What does it say in this resolution? Maps to inclusion, which is
shoot, I fell into it. I said inclusive. So anyway, it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out on Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, I love Amanda's point. What we want is for the children to be loved, right? And whatever helps our teachers do that well is probably where we should be going, rather than having epic fights over these culture wars, right, Adam? All right, next up on Inside Sources, Senate Republicans are pushing ahead with their plans to implement President Trump's agenda. More on the latest budget reconciliation package being put together after the break.
Good afternoon, 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Kaplan. KSL's top local story this hour. No strolling down a stretch of the Jordan River Trail. It's being shut down for several months. There are safety and infrastructure issues. Salt Lake City officials say the section spanning from Cottonwood Park near 400 South to 700 North is going to get a makeover. They plan to install new lighting, restore damaged riverbeds, and remove overgrown vegetation before eventually reopening for the summer months. Our top national story this hour from ABC News, nearly 24 states are suing the Trump administration over cuts to $11 billion worth of cuts to public health.
23 states are suing the Trump administration in court in Rhode Island. Their lawsuit alleges funding cuts to Health and Human Services are illegal and that the administration did not give facts to support the cuts. California Attorney General Rob Bonta.
Today, our coalition has asked the court to immediately block the termination and allow states to retain access to these essential public health funds.
The money was allocated by Congress during the pandemic, mostly for COVID-related expenses, but also addiction and mental health programs. Alex Stone, ABC News, Los Angeles.
Your money at this moment. The Dow fell 11 points today. The NASDAQ was up 150. Coming up, as the snow showers end, what's next? I'll tell you, the KSL weather forecast is next. Stay here. KSL News Time, 2:31.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Healthcare with human kindness is here. It's at Common Spirit Health. Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Together, we have a common purpose, partnering with you in health and healing using powerful medicine, powerful technology, and the greatest power of all, human kindness. You'll know it when you see it, because human kindness is in every care site and in every caregiver. Common Spirit Health. Hello, human kindness.
This is Jeff Stout with Fink and McGregor, Mortgages Made Simple. News of recent layoffs reminded me of a quote from Bob Hope. A bank is a place that will lend you money if you can prove you don't need it. A periodic check of finances can prevent big problems later on. How much debt do you have? What are the payments? Do you have a rainy day fund? What would happen if you lost your job or had other unforeseen financial issues? Mortgage interest rates have been coming down, and there may be a window of opportunity to look at your situation in terms of a possible refinance and restructuring of debt. If you'd like to go over your situation, give us a call or take advantage of our quick application at 4minutemortgage.com. It might help. There's one way to find out. Give us a call. Fink and McGregor, Mortgages Made Simple, 801-264-9494. That's 264-9494. Or on the web at finkmcgregor.com, NMLS 289115.
Is your AC ready for summer? Don't wait for the heat to hit. Weak airflow? Warm air? Strange noises? These are warning signs your AC needs attention. Our skilled technicians offer AC repair services or replacements to keep your family cool all summer long. Don't sweat it. 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning has your back. Here to keep your home cool all summer. Visit onehour.com to schedule today. Financing options available.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-859-6688. 800-859-6688. 800-859-6688.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account with built-in benefits. Here's Ricky Meese.
Little Cottonwood Canyon is open once again. Avalanche mitigation has been completed, but the traction law is in effect. And, of course, if you are out and about, you can always text us. Our KSL Mountain Home Services text line is always open at 57500. And we do have a small accident westbound on the 21st South Freeway at the exit ramp at Mountain View Corridor. You'll see those vehicles to the left. GoPave Utah is your gold standard for parking lot paving and repairs. Contact GoPave Utah today. GoPaveUtah.com. That's GoPaveUtah.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
The KSL forecast snow showers end tonight with a low of 35. Tomorrow, maybe a stray afternoon snow shower. You can expect a high of 48. For Thursday, a little bit warmer, only 51 degrees, but right now 39. I'm Jeff Kaplan from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. This is Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
President Trump's agenda is a pricey one. There's plenty he wants to do, but only a limited budget to do it. So now Republicans are looking for places to make some cuts, and Senate Republicans are working on their proposal this week. Government is funded through the summer, so we've already had a continuing resolution, a CR.
Can I ask you real quick, because you're the expert who's worked in Washington,
I don't know
D.C.
if I was an intern in Washington,
So
D.C.
can you tell me, when is the last time we've even had a real budget?
Oh my gosh. So a real budget is kind of like it's a misnomer because it's not one specific document. It's made up of multiple appropriations bills.
Right, but when's the last time we've had one that wasn't a continuing resolution? Do you even know?
Well, so that's
I'm not
also,
picking on you because legit, I don't know, right? I'm like, when is the last time?
But it's kind of interesting because you also mentioned that it's not a continuing resolution. We've had budgets before where we haven't passed each individual appropriations bill. So it actually hasn't been that long ago since we had budgets, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But we didn't pass each appropriation bill on its own, all 12 of them on their own. What we have passed is things called omnibus.
Right, these giant legislation.
What's the plural of omnibus? Is it omnibi or omnibuses?
Well, it would be omnibi if it was Latin, but omnibuses sounds funnier, so let's go with that.
We have passed multiple omnibus bills that are made up of multiple appropriations bills at the same time. So a lot of conservatives hate omnibus. And you've seen a lot of conservatives, a lot of Republicans say, I will never vote for an omnibus bill. I think that's kind of crazy. I get why. Most of these appropriations bills are not hard to get passed. It's like we're going to fund the VA. Okay, yeah, that's gonna sail through. So what you do is you take something that may not pass very easily, that may have foreign aid in it or something like that, and you stick it with the veterans. And you say, we're going to pass these 6 appropriations bills at the same time.
Because no one says no to veterans.
Right.
Right.
It's some of these must-pass things. So you got to have funding for the FDA. You got to have funding for, we got to fund clean water. We got to fund clean air. And so you stick some unpalatable things with the things that you know are going to get passed. You got to have the FAA funded.
Right.
You have to have air traffic controllers. That's going to be a problem. And we're seeing some of these problems right now with all of these layoffs and these firings. So a lot of the budget, but the executive branch can't cut budgets. The legislative branch has to do that. So what we're seeing now is everyone deciding on what they're going to actually fund through the next year. So they've already passed the budget resolution in the House, and they're just saying these are the things that here's how the appropriations bills are going to work. The Senate's got to pass that same resolution, and then we're going to get to work on the budget. And so that's kind of what we're waiting for. That is a very long answer to your question. So we have technically had budgets pass, but we've not had like an actual budget where each individual appropriations bill is passed on its own for probably 35 years.
Yeah, right, for like ever.
Maybe 94, 95, something like that.
Which is, by the way, the last time we had a balanced budget.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, because guess what? When you follow the budget process, Adam, you actually can, not come in with a $2 trillion deficit.
Well, and so we're talking about, but that technically this is also just the gospel of Adam here.
Yeah.
That's technically balanced too, because we have pay-fors, and that's paid for with debt. So,
I don't know that I count that as a balanced budget when you add to the debt.
We know where it's coming from. We have a new program comes. We have to have a pay for. The problem that we need to solve is entitlements. I'm going off on a tangent here. I apologize, but it kind of gets me heated.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about when we talk trillions of dollars in deficits. We're not talking about discretionary spending, meaning the Congress can decide how that money's spent. That is growing at a slower rate than entitlements. Entitlements are Social Security, Medicare, the Highway Trust Fund, all of those that Congress can't touch. Congress doesn't vote on those at all. They just happen automatically. That is automatic spending, and that is growing at a tremendously rapid rate. That is 3/4 of all spending every single year, and Congress doesn't even vote on it. So the more we keep talking about debt and deficit, we're not actually handling our debt and deficit. That will keep growing. You could cut $1 trillion in spending from discretionary spending, which we could do. That will not solve your problem. You still have to fix entitlements. And every single year, we are paying more on interest on the debt than we are paying for the United States military.
All right. So I feel like I felt all your feelings in that conversation right there.
It's good to have therapy.
Yeah, Adam,
and
I'm
I
your
appreciate
therapist
it,
on
Leah.
this. Let me ask you a question kind of very specifically. So my understanding from Punchbowl News, which is an Inside the Beltway kind of podcast, they cover what happens in Congress almost exclusively. And what they're saying is that there's a budget blueprint that has House committees slashing $1.5 trillion in spending, but the Senate has $3 billion in cuts.
$3 trillion or $3 billion?
$3 billion.
Okay, which is nothing.
Right, but also that seems like a huge difference.
It's a huge swing, but I don't think that it's done yet. So Senate Majority Leader John Thune told reporters late last week that the budget resolution is in the process of being drafted. So I don't think we have final numbers yet. I don't even know if we're that close. After he and House Speaker Mike Johnson met with top tax leaders earlier in the week to map out the path forward, House and Senate Republicans had previously forged ahead with their own budget blueprints, which they have to do constitutionally. That it all starts in the House, right? Because they are the closest to the people. But they must adopt that same budget plan to continue in the reconciliation process. That's a complicated reconciliation is a very complicated maneuver. The whole point of it is to not have to get 60 votes. Okay, so they know they can't. The Democrats are not going to vote for whatever their budget is. Republicans, when the Democrats were in charge, they were not voting for any of Obama's budgets. And so this is not that crazy. So we do a process called reconciliation, which means you only need to get a majority. So 50 plus 1.
Okay.
That's what we need to get something passed.
But over in the House, we've got Representative Chip Roy. I love this guy. He's always like, I feel like
yelling.
Yeah, just yelling at people. And he basically says the debt limit is tied to reasonable cuts, and a $3 billion floor ain't looking very good. It's pretty much a joke to say that a $3 billion floor is a meaningful amount of cuts. which you clearly also kind of pinged off of because you said 3 million, 3 trillion. Like that conversation around billion.
Nothing.
Sorry, yeah.
Chip Roy's right.
Right. So, man, I don't even think it's like the 60 in the Senate, dude. I think it might be. They're not going to have the 218 in the House if we got Republican leaders in the House already.
Look,
right,
that's a real
squawking.
concern. I mean, you had this timing is not very coincidental, I think. Elise Stefanik from your home state of New York.
My dad's congresswoman.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to ask if that. So she's from outside of Albany or in
Correct.
Albany.
She's from upstate North Country.
Okay, so she's from North Country, Republican era, and so she was supposed to be the United Nations ambassador, which she was in leadership before. And so as we've talked about on the show here, they now pulled her nomination. She is not going to be confirmed, because they're so thin. The margins are so thin. They need to get that 218 votes, and they need Elise Stefanik to come in and vote to save this resolution in the House,
right?
Because they can only lose 3.
Yeah, and then what happens when they do lose 3? If it's
Well, they're
Chip
not-
Roy, right? I could just list 3 Republicans: deficit hawks, Ralph Norman, Chip Roy, Lloyd Smucker,
Thomas Massey,
from
who
I
Kentucky.
don't think has voted for anything yet.
Yeah, and he was the lone no vote on the CR.
Right.
And so I think he actually may have even voted no on the budget resolution. So anyway, it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out. We were told we were going to hear something by early April. We thought that was kind of laughable that we'd get something done that quickly. The House wasn't so convinced. We are hearing in a couple of weeks. Let's see if a couple of weeks actually means 2 weeks or a lot longer. In our final segment on today's Inside Sources, we're going to come back to Utah and talk about an idea about our state being the blueprint for America's abundance agenda. What is that? Stick around to find out.
Hey, are you nervous about this stock market volatility and what will happen with tariffs, taxes, and Social Security? You're invited to a free educational event with Jeff Bush. Jeff's been featured in Investment News and CNBC. He's a nonpartisan authority that talks about this is what's going on in Washington right now. Here's how it could impact you. And these are the actionable strategies that could protect and grow your retirement savings. This event is hosted by Boss Retirement Solutions. See Jeff Bush live on Thursday, April 10th at 6:30 p.m. in downtown Salt Lake. Reserve your free ticket now by calling 801-850-6988. That's 801-850-6988. 801-850-6988.
Advisory services offered through Boss Retirement Advisors. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Boss Retirement Solutions and Advisors paid Jeff Bush for his appearance, but he is not affiliated with our firm.
Military veterans and active duty service members, you could become a certified cyber warrior with just 12 weeks of training at My Computer Career. Cybersecurity specialists are in high demand, and IT pros with these skills often enjoy abundant opportunity and a great lifestyle. Protect our people, liberty, and treasured institutions from cyber threats. SkillBridge and other VA benefits are available to those who qualify. Learn more at mycomputercareer.edu/CWP. That's mycomputercareer.edu/CWP.
Spring cleaning isn't just for clutter. Let Benjamin Franklin Plumbing take care of your appliances. From water heater replacement or repair to advanced water filtration installation, Benjamin Franklin Plumbing is here to provide a worry-free summer for you and your family. Visit BenjaminFranklinPlumbing.com to schedule. You can count on the punctual plumbers, where your comfort and safety come first. Book now. Visit BenjaminFranklinPlumbing.com.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Utah State Fair Park. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Utah State Fair Park. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Utah State Fair Park. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Utah State Fair Park. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Utah State Fair Park. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Utah State Fair Park. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission. Free delivery. Utah State Fair Park. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Take advantage of Yes Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric's $99 or it's free mainline drain clearing special. That's right, $99 or it's free. Feel secure knowing the trusted professionals at Yes guarantee that if we can't clear it, you don't pay for it. Whether it's a small clog or a larger mainline sewer drain issue, the experienced technicians at Yes are ready to solve all of your drain problems. Call now or visit theyesmancan.com for details, terms, and conditions.
Break your spring break routine and make your way into a unique balance of outdoor adventure and arts. In Cedar City and Bryan Head, you'll be greeted with stunning views combined with the most epic trails at Cedar Breaks or Three Peaks Recreation Area. Recreation enthusiasts, we're talking to you. Visit Parowan's Evil Water Bike Trails, Thor's Hammer, and Kolob Canyon to take the ride and hikes of your life. The trip wouldn't be complete without one of the scenic drives and byways in the region to experience breathtaking overlooks and magical views. That's not all. Cedar City is known as Festival City, USA, hosting dozens of events including free music festivals, parades, farmers markets, and more. But make sure to spend a little time in their historic downtown, lined with quaint shops, eateries, and museums. So break away to the vibrant and welcoming communities of Bryan Head and Cedar City. Plan your visit today at cedarcity.com. That's cedarcity.com.
Are you looking to find more fairways, hit more greens, and lower your scores? Then a custom golf club fitting from a Shields certified master fitter is your answer. Learning from the world's top fitters at Titleist Performance Institute, Callaway Performance Center, and the Ping Proving Grounds, we're equipped to fit you with the right clubs to make your game more consistent. Go to shields.com/expert fitting to schedule a custom fitting today.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
The Democratic Party, as you might not be surprised by, Adam Gardner, has been searching for a new message following their devastating losses in the November election. You're here with Leah Murray alongside Adam. Adam, what do you think their message should be? Oh my gosh, your face. You don't want to answer for the Democrats. Let me just say this. Do you feel that they've landed on one?
No, right. I don't. I think the Democrats are still trying to figure it out. It's very interesting. You have Cory Booker, who we talked about in a previous segment. He's gone out there and been like, we're going to be the party of fighters. I'm gonna go out and I'm going to speak for 24 hours and I'm going to make this big stand. That, I think, is a cool event, and it's really smart to show that you're doing something. It's not really a message. Then on the other side of the United States, you have Gavin Newsom, who's trying to completely rework the Democratic message. He's a political animal, right? So he's the one that's going to be saying, hey, we were wrong on guys playing in girls' sports. We were wrong on cancel culture. We were wrong on COVID. We were wrong on regulation. We need to change, and we need to be more adaptable. This is what people are clamoring for.
All right, so one possible place that Democrats might look is to Utah, which I think is interesting, but I'll tell you, I'm not, too surprised by it. This new idea of abundance, Adam. So the co-author of Abundance Way of Thinking, Derek Thompson, saying that Utah's Governor Spencer Cox represents an abundance faction of the Republican Party. What they mean by abundance is a positive sum vision. So it takes, you shift away from, if I get something, you lose something, and try to have a mindset that says, not every group's gains comes at another group's expense, that we can all kind of grow.
It's a rising tide lifts all boats types of thing. I don't know if you saw it, Leah. Do you remember seeing Ezra Klein, who was another co-author of this piece?
Yeah.
Ezra Klein was being interviewed or was on a podcast or something with Jon Stewart. I don't know if you saw this. And Ezra Klein was getting some pushback from Jon Stewart. He's a very progressive guy. And, everything that the Republicans are saying is wrong, and we need more progressive politics. And Ezra Klein, he brought up something that was also in this Deseret News article where he talked about $42 billion being spent by the Biden administration for $42 billion for rural broadband initiative. And that was years ago. Since then, not a single house has been connected to the internet because of a 14-step approval process demanding climate plans, union favoritism, and separate low-cost options. He says that's a classic example of progressive processes and procedures getting in the way of progressive outcomes. I liked how he said that.
Yeah. So the answer is rural broadband matters, but all these rules we have and regulations make it impossible to deliver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another great a great book called San Francisco, and it talks about homelessness. And he's kind of makes the same point in this book where he says it's two progressive ideals pitted against each other. You have like academics who study homelessness and what homeless people really need. They need to be taken off the streets if they have a drug addiction. Like they're not their own self. They need to be taken and made to get corrective action, go to drug court. They need to get help. They need to be forced to have a job. They need all of these steps. And then on the other side of the progressive spectrum, you have the ACLU who is saying, no, leave them be. They're free Americans. If they want to go poop in the streets, they can. That's their right. And so you have these progressive ideals pitted against each other. And he's really, what they kind of come to the conclusion as you said, is maybe Utah is kind of that blueprint to follow, but why?
Yeah. So I'm wondering, so this is Governor Spencer Cox citing a 2023 Harvard study that says Utah residents were the least likely to agree with statements asking whether the success of a certain ethnicity, immigrant community, international trade partner, or income class necessarily hurts another group. That zero-sum thinking was really not something that Utahns embraced. And I just kind of love this idea. So can you just look at me and tell me, maybe that is the third party or something, right? So if there was a way that was like, let's have the outcomes, let's have rural broadband without all of the extra red tape, right? So we lose that. And it's something that kind of doesn't pit one group against another group, which I do feel I hear from both sides of the aisle. Is that a place, we were talking earlier off the air about having more decorum, more civility. Like, is that the space maybe where we could go with our politics?
I think so. And Americans have seen that the government can do something like that. There's this example that's used all the time of when the Empire State Building was built, it was built in something like a year and a half. And the bridge that got ran into by the cargo ship in Baltimore, that's going to take 10 plus years. It's been almost 2 years and we haven't done a single thing with that bridge. Like it's not going to come back, and it's going to be way more expensive, way more ridiculous because there's a million steps to it. In California, after the wildfire, what does every government agency say? Hey, we're going to get rid of regulation. It's going to be a much easier process. And then you have another liberal progressive like Bill Maher who said, then why don't you guys just do that in the first place? Why are you suspending all these stupid regulations? I can't even replace my roof, and it's my roof. And then you see the streets of San Francisco are, kind of disgusting. And then when President Xi comes to San Francisco, it's completely clean. There are no homeless people anywhere. And so I think people get really frustrated where it's like, you guys can make changes if you really want to. And in Utah, we don't really have that. It seems like we have a lot more freedom. We kind of are the blueprint because we're trying to get rid of regulation all the time. Every single legislative session, they're taking away more regulations, more hoops that we have to jump through and making things a little bit easier. They're doing it with the housing crisis. Their cities and counties and the state are all working together to make sure that we can build more homes, have more access to water, and that we still have jobs, good paying jobs that are available for everyone here. So yeah, maybe we are the blueprint.
Yeah, and it's like focusing on innovation and making things possible, right? I love this. Apparently, there's a Utah-based Abundance Institute, and the group CEO says that Utah is the blueprint for what an abundance agenda looks like in practice, like innovative AI policy, work like energy affordability, right? Kind of being thoughtful about nuclear energy in our state. Yeah, I love this idea. Does it feel like it's politically the right thing to be talking about?
I just think that on the abundance mindset, it's who do we think that the abundance comes from? Does it come from America and her people being able to actually the rising tide lifts all boats? Is it the people that are doing that, or do we believe that comes from government? Is government the one that takes the action? And I think that's where Republicans and Democrats might disagree.
Right, maybe. But if Democrats are going to be better, maybe it makes sense for them to focus on it being the people, right, where that comes from. So Governor Cox saying we have pioneer spirit, we have grit, industry, faith, building the next great chapter of Utah's story. I feel like that could be, right?
Go
American
Utah.
spirit.
Yeah.
Well, let's go Utah.
Go
but
Utah.
it
We're
could
the
be
best.
totally brought out to a more national way of thinking.
But that's good. Yeah, if Democrats can follow our lead, I think that's great. If Democrats followed the state's lead, they'd be Republicans. So I'm all for that.
I love that, Adam Gardner. Thank you so much for listening to Inside Sources. It's been a pleasure having a conversation with you. Next up on our radio is Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News. Have a wonderful weekend.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon, 3 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Kaplan. 39 degrees, KSL's top story. One of Utah's oldest refugee support programs is shutting down because of Trump administration cuts. They can't make ends meet. We have team coverage, and we'll begin with KSL News Radio's Jessica Lowell.
The Catholic Community Services of Utah's 50-year-old program has offered help to hundreds of refugees every year, but now they're facing federal funding hurdles.
This is a life-saving program. This is an act of Congress, so the president cannot completely shut down the program because the Congress wants to continue this program. So they're reviewing right now.
The organization's Refugee Services Director, Aidan Batar, says they have enough money to help the 300-plus families that they're already offering service to for the next year, but they won't be able to help any new clients get settled in Utah. He hopes that once the review is done, they'll be able to offer more services to refugees coming into the state. Jessica Lowell, KSL News Radio.
Refugee advocates in Utah say these cuts to federal funding for refugees are cruel. KSL News Radio's Eric Cabrera spoke with the Refugee Justice League, and our live team coverage continues. Eric?
Jeff, Utah attorneys representing refugees say they saw a cut like this coming a few months ago. Norm McKellar, an attorney with the Refugee Justice League, warns that without funding, refugees will be left to fend for themselves.
There's now no one to help them in this process. So they're now stuck here. They may not know the language.